Hi, everyone. Welcome to Cosmic Akashic Thursdays. It's July 3rd, and so our theme this week has been independence and sovereignty and an acknowledgement of the self in line with the freedom of our country. And so I always love this holiday. I love it for our nation here in the United States. I know a lot of you listening are in other countries, and I wish independence for all nations, or maybe someday we won't even have nations if that's where we're headed. But I love the foundation on which this nation was built. And it's even though, there are things that have been imperfect where that are changing, or there's been all kinds of things go on, it's always near and dear to my heart because one of my premises for being here in this lifetime and teaching what I teach and having worked through what I have worked through, trauma and cancer and all this other stuff, it's because of the notion that I do believe that no matter what, we're free. And it doesn't always seem like that. And I know there are things going on in this planet right now that are very, 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 very painful. And that doesn't mean that I ignore those or I don't care. Um, but but at the end of the day, based on my experiences, the thing I know, and I've grappled with it, and I've read Man's Search for Meaning by and I've read about, people being imprisoned or in terrible situations who have found freedom. And I'm one of those too. And you guys have had your own versions of imprisonment or hard times. I know sometimes they don't compare to what is going on with a lot of people, but trust trust me if you want to, or delve in or disagree if you want to. But at the end of the day, the thing is, this universe is built on the whole notion of free will. The universe source created a free will universe, and we all made choices eons ago. We all made choices 2000 years ago. We all made choices yesterday. We all are making choices today. And at least, if nothing else, we have inner freedom. That's the kind of freedom that never, ever, ever goes away. And what I find is the more that I focus on inner freedom and the deepest knowing of who I am, of who we are, as creator, the more I see you and everybody else out there, even though they might be doing something annoying as heck or terrible, they're still, they are souls, and there's so many reasons they're behaving like that. And when we do know to go underneath those reasons, we've done it for ourselves. When we do it with other people, there are painful reasons, painful situations, painful hurt under really any form of tragic behavior. And I'm not condoning it. It is not right. I don't like it at all, but I do know that underneath all of us, inside all of us, there's the most brilliant star being and encodement that's pure gold and pure light that cannot ever be extinguished, even if it's really never realized in a lifetime, even if the lifetime is so severe that it's not seen, it's at least seen the moment the person takes their last breath. And so the freedom of knowing that's one of the things that has started to keep me extraordinarily more sane than ever before in my head. And it's been a long time coming. It's been a very, very long time coming. I've been delving into the mysteries for decades now, as many of you have. And but I actually find it imperative in my own sanity to remember these kinds of things when I do watch the news or when I do hear about things, and then take action accordingly, or have feelings accordingly, or show up to some event accordingly. And so I'm just passing that along because we have a really, really powerful question from this group today that was asked, and I'm going to deepen my connection with the guides to help answer this. So there's a question about how does what we are doing as light workers, we were talking about how we had received a beautiful activation and it really felt great and it lit up our light codes and it was very powerful. And the question was, how does what we are doing in those terms affect this planet when it really seems like all the war, all the suffering, all the trafficking, all those things are still going on? Okay, so that's a really powerful question, and it is in line with what the messaging is. So in a nutshell, we'll bring it in. And one of my guides, my guardian angel, is Winston Churchill, and he appeared at the moment that question was answered, and so he started to talk about how imagine the force that it took for him and Theodore Roosevelt and other leaders to maintain sobriety and sanity as leaders during World War II. There were only a few stalwart generals even who could have the same capacity as to stay on par with each other in a zone of light. And he is actually correlating that group of people, the leaders who were fighting the forces of, evil, if you will say, or whatever. We won't even judge, but just fighting the forces. He's saying there were only a few of us who we were tasked with keeping the face of optimism, a light lit up for a world that was living in complete darkness and fear much of the time. And that didn't mean there wasn't suffering, but we had to call in our extraordinary faculties every moment of the day, not only to make decisions, but to shine the light of hope to our soldiers and to the civilians who had just lost someone and to all the others. And so he's saying, what if we weren't able to do that? What if we had dimmed so much? What if we didn't believe in ourselves at all and in the goodness of mankind? What if we didn't believe in the divine that held us? What if we didn't do our discussions, albeit in different ways, that supported our commitment to hold the line? The world may be a very different place, may have turned out to be a very different place if we hadn't done that. So on one hand, we're saying to you, light workers, and there's a whole lot of guides out here. There's a cosmic group of Arcturians with us. We're saying to you, light workers who are from these other realms and holding the light in a similar way. Because rest assured, you are holding some kind of line for a new perspective to come in, and it's just as powerful as the line we held, if not more powerful than ever, because it has the potentiality to shift consciousness on the planet in a whole brand new way. The consciousness that we shifted was in the history books was very powerful in terms of the hope of a new era. and the New Deal and the new times we were in. Those were very physical, tangible results that came out of the rebuilding of cities and nation states and partnerships, and treaties. That was a powerful collective response to the devastation and destruction. And many of us, civilians included, were able to hold the line in order to further the cause of that kind of freedom. And that's what many of you got to have. You've all been able to experience the offshoots of that. Think of it like that. Think of it in terms of how history has always tipped to the light. When there's an upheaval, then there's an explosion, and then there's an opportunity. And the holders, those who hold because they know that there's something that they came here to do during a time of crisis, those are very, very, very powerful and important roles. They're very powerful. So your ability to empower anyone to see things in a slightly different perspective, for instance, is one of the biggest ways that you are affecting people. So many of you are not on a front line, are not directly in the line of fire of any of these crises, though many of you have been in your own ways. Your sanity, your sobriety, and your astute wisdom from this life that you have collected, and now you're shining because of it, it's having an exorbitant effect not only on the people that you touch in your day-to-day, but again, as the wisdom codes come through you and you touch one person today and one person tomorrow and one person the next day, it only takes a spark to get a fire going. It only takes one act of seemingly random giving permission to allow someone to see themselves differently and see themselves as God the creator instead of woe begone sufferer or victim. That alone is where the difference lies. That's where the hope lies, and that's where the empowerment lies. So we could say, you could look at it very distinctly and simply in all cases, world wars or what's going on now on the war front, but also what's going on within people's brains. One way to look at it is simply categorizing it into victim or liberated mindset. You could look at yourself in any day, in any situation, and ask yourself, am I being a victim or am I being my liberated self? You could look into, if you could peek into the participants of war, let's just say, well, anywhere in a nation state that's under siege, you could ask any of those people inside there on any day, are they feeling like they're a victim or liberated? And they'll answer differently than you think sometimes, and they'll answer differently on any given day, because it's about a state of mind, and referencing the state of liberated, for instance, where there are captors all around, makes you make very different choices than referencing yourself as victim. We know that from all the amazing stories from the Holocaust and from other times where people found extraordinary resources within themselves and also became freed physically Some did not, but they died heroically. So many different ways it can go. And so that's a very beautiful question. And thank you. And that's our way of very, very broadly espousing that you remember to question the reality, because down to the minuscule cellular level, you all are always free. It is simply these experiences that create illusion, that create beliefs. Situations create beliefs, but consciousness can uncreate beliefs, and consciousness can see empowerment, and consciousness can see a way out that might be shockingly easy out of any situation, say imprisonment of the mind or imprisonment in the physical sense. It's all about consciousness. It's all about letting yourself remember the power of your mighty consciousness when it's in conjunction with your brain and your heart center and your spiritual self, and how that combination empowers you to finally one day turn a new chapter, turn a new leaf, and see something uniquely supportive, whereby you automatically have the answer and you're set free. And you all have experienced this many times in your lives where you've had this. So think, remember those times, and project those times into the ethers. Tell those stories to your tribe. Share those aha moments and those aspects of you that were struck by the grace that was in the room and the grace that you were, that in an instant caused you to, for instance, go to a different doctor who ended up saving your life, or find a new school for your child who ended up being happier than ever, or allowed you to finish that book that you wanted to finish, or allowed you to manifest the romance of your life. It can happen in an instant, and the secret is to nourish the consciousness, and that is because that's where hope, the keeping the hope alive resides. And it slowly becomes not even a need for hope, it's a knowing, and it's a faith, but it's simply a knowing that this is the way I'm going to have it be now. So where has there been a time where you made such an empowering choice? We're going to ask you all to jog your memory and write it down. Where's there been a time in your life where you sat perhaps with a pen and paper, and you were so determined, with such a strong will, and you said, by golly, I'm not going to do that anymore. And you got up and you made a phone call, or you brushed yourself off, or you picked up the phone and asked for a raise, or you told your partner something. Remember one of those times where your moxie was so robustly your way of being that you pivoted and you changed your trajectory, because all of you have about 27 of those you could rattle off right now if you wanted to. And that's another way of saying what we're saying. And Winston Churchill is saying that he was in a position to hold a flame of a torch of that kind of moxie alive for people in a at a time where if that didn't happen, the masses would have kept collectively collapsing in on themselves in a way until they started to band together. Now, that's not to say single-handedly, saying I didn't do it all single-handedly. He just was one of the keepers of that, the flame of innovation that allowed people to gather and convene and create shelters, for instance, create groups of the civilization that stayed safe, create different groups that went out for the troops, all kinds of things. There was so much innovation and creativity among people because they stayed conscious. Now you could say they were forced to, but often the best ideas come out of being forced into change. And so that's what's happening now. That's what's happening again. It doesn't always feel good, but if you can remember, the best things happen when people are forced to change because they're forced to pick themselves out of the old matrix, the old way, and the old belief system, all of that, and get really, really, really creative. It's already happening. How many creative ideas are coming along? How many young, new minds are coming online? How much more will there be of innovation during these times where it seems, it seems devastating if you focus on it, or you let that devastation be a fire under your skin that glows you into a new way. So we are very confident that these times are changing rapidly. This is the Arcturian Council, and you all are having a profound impact that ripples through the collective, because now you already know this. You're like a beehive, and when one bee buzzes a certain way, others can get that vibration and buzz in the same way. You know that, so continue to let the spiral of innovation be part of your system and how you operate, and continue to let yourself glow in the light that you are, and trust and take conscious action when you're guided to. And we also do pray a blessing over those who are suffering, and that they release themselves from suffering, that they do get extended the hand of God, the hand of divine intervention, the hand of intervention from people. There's so many things magical, ways that are going on with all of it. And it's our intention to inspire the continuation of the expansion project that you're part of. And so we love you. We do sympathize, and we do express our gratitude for your perseverance during these times, and we acknowledge the symbiosis that's going on, and we are here always for you. And we'll be happy to take some questions now if you would like.